Hey, Roddy, welcome back. As we record, it is the day after Microsoft build. We've just been changing all our prep because now we know what we can talk about and some big announcements around autopilots and clause and all sorts of things. So obviously the two people that I always go to decode this are Alev and Chris, and we'll see if they agree and get some of their experience. I think everybody knows who you guys are in the community pretty well, but just quickly, do you want to introduce yourselves and then we'll get stuck into Alev promised to decode the Microsoft AI strategy just before we came on, so no pressure.
Hi everyone, my name is Alev Tamer. I'm a senior partner solution architect in what we call a region SEMA. So I am responsible of my South Europe partners, and as you know, I am all about Copilot, AI, and agents at work. Chris?
Yep. Hi, everyone. So I'm Chris. I am a Copilot Solution Engineer aligned to UK healthcare, primarily NHS. And yeah, like Alev, really in the weeds of Copilot, trying to be a good pre-sales resource where I can.
Awesome. So I'm going to avoid jumping straight into autopilots and Scout and OpenClaw, because we did say from the last show we talk about multimodal and researcher and critique. So let's start there. Chris, maybe I can throw to you first. Like, start from the top. What is this idea of multimodal and having multiple models work at the same time?
Yeah, so I think we're kind of shifting from this idea that Microsoft isn't just, the OpenAI guys. We're not just backing the one horse. I think where we've been doing a lot of work in realizing that, as you know, Microsoft's very much integrated into loads of things. We love open source, we love partners, we love third-party solutions. And obviously when it comes to models, it's no different. And I think, now that we've changed that dynamic, it's opened up a load of really great opportunities for us. So where we kind of looked at building in more models, we give people a lot of really good choice, not just with different models, but the different types of models as well. So, you can still use like GPT 5.5, 5.4, 5.3. And yeah, just effectively, it's just great to have different choices where we know that Anthropic's very strong in the market. We know that GPT's always been there from the very get-go. And the idea around it is that just that flexibility gives more accuracy, more creativity, more more outputs into the way that we need to deliver our work. So the idea around
it's the versus or working together thing that's really interesting to me. It's like yes, you've got a model selector, so I can select model A or model B or model C, and that's cool.
Oh.
And I can see a future where we have reasoning budgets and like, actually, do I want to use the crazy high model or do I want to use the Microsoft model or whatever? But it's when you put them together to say model A come up with the information and model B validate it and critique it, or vice versa. That's something that's quite unique to Microsoft in the knowledge workspace, because typically you're betting on one of the horses and that will be your model stack, whereas here you can bring together multiple models to work in tandem.
Yeah, and you're still in control. You still select whichever one you prefer, as with all the other things, with choosing the different GPT models. But ultimately, the critique is really interesting because actually it's almost like an assistant checking another assistant's work as well. And it's another assistant which has a different training set. So it's great when you have those two models actually checking each other's work, because actually some things it might say, well, actually, this is a hallucination. This didn't pick up on it, but I have. Or actually, that's pretty sound. I'd reword it slightly differently, or different things like that.
And we've seen this in coding, right? So it feels like to me like a coding kind of is 6 months ahead of knowledge work quite often. And like coding in the Claude code, we got the plugin for Codex, and then Codex did a plugin like multi-model and everything. It's like open code, you can flip models, and in Copilot CLI, you can obviously choose different models as well. So they, for a long while on the dev side, have got the idea of like, well, I'll use this model for this scenario and this for this scenario, and this can check my work. Same principle coming to knowledge work.
Yeah. And we're already seeing it in things like agent building as well. So, typically I'll spend a lot of time in Copilot Studio. And usually when you have a certain topic, that topic may be delivered by, DeepSeek, or maybe like a GPT model, for example.
Yeah.
And obviously when you break it down, you may have a model performing better with different tasks. It depends on obviously the subject, of course, and what department or what subject you're talking about. But yeah, I do like that flexibility. Obviously with that, there comes an element of, okay, well, we need to manage that effectively, security-wise, governance, what does that look like? We're still quite early in that element of, okay, well, how complex does this need to be? Do we need to give this complexity to our customers? Can we make it easy for them to understand? And obviously, yeah, when you have something like Copilot, we do make it easy. When you've got more agent options, there's a lot more, obviously with low code, pro code options there. So yeah, I do like that.
And
Nice.
also, there's a new, have you heard about DRACO benchmark? It's all about deep research, completeness, accuracy, and objectivity. So the DRACO benchmark, the research critic has the highest point comparing to other deep research. For example, when you use the OpenAI's deep research, Mini O3, you can see that benchmark is like 31.7. And within the research with critic, it's 57.4%.
Oh,
So it's
interesting.
the
Do you think
highest
and do
comparing
you think
to,
part of that is because they're able to use both models to get the outcome?
it's more accurate. And like
Yeah.
Chris said, it actually uses like two different models at the same time. And Microsoft is the only company which can provide these kind of capabilities. That's
Nice.
one of our strategy.
So, do we go next to Cowork, or do we go to what we were talking about as Copilot, but now talking about as autopilots and Scout? Where do we go next?
So I do use Copilot more than Cowork now.
Okay,
I'll
well,
let you choose.
maybe we should start with defining how the two are different, because Cowork is essentially similar to Anthropic's Cowork, but running in Microsoft Cloud in a container. So it's running in the cloud, and it's a multi-model. At the moment, it's using the Anthropic models, and it's running in the cloud, connecting to Graph, doing things for you. It can generate PowerPoints, it can generate files. So how is the kind of autopilots and Scout and OpenClaw different?
So if you think about Copilot Cowork, it only uses Anthropic's Claude model, OpenSense on it. And as Microsoft, we promise to use the latest and the greatest models coming from different companies. In Copilot, we can select different models coming from different companies, like both OpenAI as well as Anthropic's and Microsoft. We are actually including some of the Microsoft AI models for flash coding or code flash in Copilot. So you use a model to work with. In the same session or the same chat, you'll need to just keep using the same model. If you have a different job to do, you can just create a new chat and then use different models for different work. So as Microsoft, the AI strategy is actually providing an AI platform which is intelligent, trusted, and scalable. And we all know that Microsoft is actually using AI for the last 30 years, and we are talking about a 50 years of technology company. So it's literally AI built on top of work. So we know that.
Yeah, sorry, that's an interesting kind of distinction. So Copilot, you can do multi-model, and Copilot is essentially built on OpenClaw, but then you've done some things internally to kind of fork it and secure it and make it more Microsoft aligned. So is it essentially consuming the models from Foundry? Is that how it's working?
Not as much as Foundry. Foundry has thousands of models, but we can provide the main models from OpenAI as well as Anthropic's and some Microsoft models. But the magic in the background is work IQ. It's personalized. It knows me better than sometimes maybe Chris.
I don't know. I feel like that's a challenge.
No.
That's another pub quiz we need to build.
Yeah. Maybe one for the next podcast. Yeah, let's do that.
So my performance is based on my partner's performance, and 60% of my performance, because we went through performance review when I use Copilot to produce my performance review, I need to go and search for my partner's market offers. And I don't know if you had or experienced this, but searching something in marketplace is sometimes impossible. So what I did, I was like, this is a marketplace, and it can open the links because it uses your credentials, and you need to create a GitHub. Because it knows about my job, I just ask it to, please, this is my partner list. go through the marketplace and create me a deck with all of my partners' offers and make it align with frontier partner or frontier firm concept.
And is
My
it at that
manager-
point, is Copilot like computer use driving the browser, or is it running a
Yes.
browser in the background?
It opens a browser
Yeah.
and then it starts running the job. So Cowork is not able to do it at the moment.
Yeah.
But I don't know if anyone loves just preparing for a performance interview, but I used to either just procrastinate about it and spend hours and hours off job. It was done in 20 minutes. Now my manager wants me to show this to my team because he was amazed by the results, the PowerPoint presentation. I was like, oh my God, this is the thing. This is what Copilot meant
And
to be.
what model did you pick when you did that, out of interest?
I did use Claude models.
Interesting. And Chris, you were saying, because you got quite big into Cowork, didn't you? You did quite a few things with it.
Yeah.
What were the things that you've picked Cowork for, and what were the things that you've picked
So
for?
I'm still a big fan of fire and forget. Not fire and forget, sorry, just fire and just leave for a little bit and come back to it.
Yeah.
I think, where you give Cowork a certain task, like, I'll give you a good example. Just recently, we've got a NHS event coming up next week called Confed. And I'm running the M365 Copilot stand, and what I don't have enough of is good demo packs. So what I do is I give Cowork the task of building me a lot of dummy data, so Excel, PowerPoint, Word documents. I ask it to give me the full-blown demo pack with all the prompts, and I then give it, I gave it like 18 different personas, like CIO, CDIO, CEO, CFO, all of those. And I want to say, look, build me out all of these demo packs, and literally just, it obviously takes a good couple of hours for it to go through every single one. You see obviously all the outputs and all the folders being created, but literally something like that I just absolutely love. The same thing as when I start building like GitHub repository packages as well. So I've been doing a lot of work with it's quite funny. I'm a big fan of Azure static web apps. And I've used it for personal stuff. So obviously I've got my diet and my fitness app that runs off of Azure, which is a hobby, is free, is good. And every week I just use Cowork to update that based on my scales, based on my preferences.
You should show that.
Yeah.
If you want to show it.
I mean, if people want to, it's public. You just go on to www.christrainingplan.com. And you could see, literally, you can see all my recipes, all my training. At the moment, I've got a knee injury, so it's given me a bit more of a relaxed training plan. But no,
you just caveating it when people look at it, Chris. To be like,
exactly.
You could be working
Please
a bit harder.
just, it does usually have like gym sessions and cycling and all this sort of stuff. But unfortunately, I did a 10K last weekend. I've hurt my knee, so it's told me to take it easy. So, but anyway, the recipes are really good. Like it's so simple, it's perfect, and my wife can access the app just in case I'm away and she still wants to cook some food. It's just brilliant. I also use it for Monday Night Football. I have like an Excel spreadsheet with all the players and a couple of stats, which I've just given, like what's their shooting, like what's their defending, and it creates a team sheet and it produces that on a static web app for me, obviously linked to GitHub. So anyway, personal stuff, brilliant. Work stuff, even better. So I've basically created a fake like website for one of my NHS customers, and I've just built a Copilot Studio agent that's basically just been it's just used the website as a knowledge source. But what you do is you embed that into the website and you show it working. So something like that, I just asked Cowork, hey, by the way, look at Torbay Hospital's website, recreate it. Obviously, it doesn't copy it exactly because there's copyright infringement there, but it just does a really good job of building a really nice looking NHS website. With the embedded code. I don't have to worry about coding it anymore. It gives me all the GitHub repositories, all the images, everything, all the README documents, all that type of stuff. And it's it just saves me so much time, and I really do like it. But no, the main one is the multiple documents, the demo packs. It would have taken me absolutely ages to try and do that before.
And you're firing that off to a cloud container as well, so just to help people understand.
Exactly,
it's like,
I can close my laptop,
off my machine. Yeah, exactly.
And
hold on to
Yeah.
that when I come back, maybe tomorrow, maybe
And
when
this
I
is
remember, you know.
this is the reason why there's that joke going around with the Claw Pilot and the Open Claw stuff, where somebody's selling like those little plastic arm things to just hold the laptop up just a little bit, because if you close your laptop, it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
And
they're like
obviously
coding on the beach.
yeah, and obviously with Cowork, you just fire it off. It's in the cloud. Shut my laptop, go off, come back. It's all done. So there's some slight differences. Obviously, there's a benefit of having cloud rather than local. There's some benefits of having local than cloud. So it's yeah. But I mean, in terms of my own work, it's just great. I mean, we've got some of our colleagues, haven't we, Alev, that just love building HTML dashboards. Yeah, Alev's one. We've got loads where we just basically get like a really good account plan every week. It builds a HTML file for us. We've got one of my other colleagues, Stuart Nichols. He's just made a really good sort of M365 licensing and Copilot strategy dashboard that he then shares with customers.
Oh, wow.
And what they do is this basically collects all the information and gives you a foolproof plan on how to successfully deploy Copilot. And it goes through things like security, governance, licensing, adoption, change management, all that type of stuff. He's obviously a customer success. So obviously he's really into the whole post sales and really optimizing the experience there. But there's some really cool things happening with Cowork. And yeah,
and
dashboards is definitely one of them.
mobile.
And it's now available on mobile, yeah.
The other thing is skills. Now we are actually talking about agent skills. For example, I actually created a skill for me to create the demo. So what I'm basically doing, I just do like / and I call the skills to create the demo. It just asking questions about what kind of industry, which customers do you have specific? Is it like a medium, big, or enterprise? And then it asks about what kind of roles. Is it the business decisions makers or IT? And then it just creates things. And then I actually ask it to create a HTML dashboard so I can actually prepare for my, and it has like timers, everything, the prompts.
Nice.
Just to add to that, I think the skills thing, for those that don't know what that is, it's effectively like a set of instructions again. So it's basically like a file that's embedded. It has like, you know, the very similar instructions that you have with agents. Say, look, this is what I like doing. This is how I like it done. And obviously it's really great for repetitive tasks. So like if Alev keeps building a HTML dashboard or like demo packs or presentations, it knows what to do because of that skill. Whereas obviously an agent obviously has that in the instructions, but we're not. Yeah, so they're very, very similar in that regard.
Yeah, they sound more complicated because like the industry has been kind of fitting around skills and plugins and connectors, and like it's nice to see Microsoft and most industry have standardized on skills now, which essentially is really just markdown files like with sets of instructions. Like SharePoint have added them, obviously Cowork's added them, Copilot as well, and Claw will obviously, whatever variation of the Claw you use would use as well. So it's nice that you can use those skills in different ways, though those tools work differently. So the ability to do things are slightly different when you're on a desktop running an agent versus running Cowork in the cloud, as an example.
One of the things I do use for my job, because it's nearly impossible just to grasp all of the changes and announcements coming from Microsoft, especially in the build time. I just give it specific emails that we receive some updates, because we have too many different notifications, newsletters, emails, and I make it to create a filterable dashboard for what's upcoming, what's internal, what's under NDA, and it actually creates and updates it every 5 a.m. in the morning. That's the automated part. So this is, we talked about in the previous podcast, but this is how we can become a frontier firm. Human-led, agent-operated, because it asks me, would you like me to do this? I can either just ask it to do it once or do it all the time. Be careful with do it all the time. Some of my friends ended up with missing files and emails.
So, like, where are you both landing on agent on the desktop versus Cowork, or am I mischaracterizing that as a versus? Do you think in reality there might be different tools for different use cases?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I also think that there are certain considerations, like obviously when you talk about more local based AI, you know, with runtime, for example, I've got no idea how a system admin or even like a desktop admin would react to that sort of thing, to say, hey, I'm running this.
A lot of the build keynote was around how Microsoft are going to use execution containers and layers of policies. Like there's going to be a big conversation in enterprise for sure about this agent is impersonating Alev and has everything Alev, like, how do I log it? How do I trust it?
And
Agent
then,
how does Agent 365 understand what it's
the
doing?
accountability piece as well. Like Alev, like scheduled this PowerShell script. Was it Alev or was it her agent? Like those sort of things. So there needs to be some sort of consideration there. I think we'll probably spend a bit of time trying to explain that it's still really safe. Obviously, Microsoft's all about trust and security. The other thing as well is I think with things like Cowork as well, we're still kind of a little bit behind just because obviously the way that Anthropic works, and we're just kind of spending a lot of time explaining like where Anthropic sits in our architecture as well. And then obviously in my role, especially in healthcare, we're still kind of learning to walk. Like the dream is to have, human-led agent orchestrated like down the line. I think we're still getting into like the situation where we're still looking at, right, okay, who's going to build this agent, who's going to use it, and even better, who needs to manage it. Obviously we're still having those Agent 365 conversations. We're still building, really good agents. Like we've kind of moved from knowledge retrieval agents. We're now getting AI doers now. So we're looking at things like tools and all that sort of stuff. And then we're broaching on automation. There's like a few hurdles to jump through to get there. But like we're still in that realization stage, and obviously with that comes the ROI with that as well. NHS is going through a very sensitive time right now, so it's kind of being delicate with that. AI is not there to replace people; it's there to help, even though there are certain things happening within the NHS which is unavoidable. So yeah, we're kind of not there. That is the dream. I'd love to start talking about that. I think realistically, we're still kind of, turning on Agent Builder, getting people used to AS, Copilot Studio, integrated with Azure as well, and all these sort of things.
It's just a lot going on, isn't there? Because as we talk, it's like interesting because the autopilots and the Cowork are largely, as they stand, I have extra tools to do stuff for me, things that are, whereas the Copilot Studio and Agent Builder type approach is more like I could build a agent for my team, for my workflow that stands independent of me. And I imagine those lines will blur as we get to share autopilots and things, but it's
yeah. And not just for yourself. I think, the main focus of Microsoft is to try and, scale out as I want to say as quickly, but as successfully as possible. So the idea being is that even though like, things like Copilot, OpenClaw, Cowork, for example, is really good for like, the smaller numbers. Obviously M365 is going to be more broader. Copilot Chat, obviously for everyone. And like Copilot Studio, building agents that could just be standardized, templated. So there's some things happening with NHS England that's going to do that for all the 1.8 million people on the tenant, right? And
Wow.
for us, it'll be really good. I mean, from a consumption perspective, and then obviously the more niche, specialized instances where you do need local runtime, where you do need more advanced specialties, that will be really pinpoint key areas where we will see really good outcomes there. So yeah, I mean, from a sales perspective, it's kind of teetering more along the more broader demographic. But we still like to see like these really cool tools happening. Like, I mean, you may have seen that new Windows device that they were launching as well, and or what they're building. So yeah, there's a load of cool things happening. So I'm really keen to see what happens in the future when that becomes GA.
Yeah, I guess then it's interesting, like where we'll get with autopilot, because the part of the conversation was autopilots could have their own enter identity. So suddenly, actually, am I building team members?
Yeah.
Do I build them in I was about to say the old way, like Copilot Studio and Foundry, or in Claw type model? Like I think it's just it's exciting, but there's not a clear one way to do things. It's like here's a menu of options, and it's nice to see Microsoft really keeping up with the rest of the industry in like, okay, here's an option, we'll look at this, experiment with this. Here's an option, like we were talking before we recorded on the pod, like it's a bit of a challenge, as you said, keeping up with everything that's going on. But I'd almost rather be in that situation than looking over the fence and being like, oh, we don't have a client side version, or we don't have a Cowork, so it's nice to have the options. And Microsoft, I think, are being very pragmatic with, oh, Anthropic are doing something really good over here, we should integrate that model. We talked about new models again. The Minstrel got announced on Foundry. There's more stuff coming there. Actually, maybe that's a good topic to get into, because a lot of this stuff at the moment depends. Some of it depends exclusively on Anthropic. Some of it depends on you having the Anthropic models enabled. It all depends on Frontier. How do we help decode that for people?
So the Anthropic stuff's interesting because Cowork will eventually have GPT 5.5 or
Yep.
whatever the latest version will be when it comes out. So
So
yeah,
that will
we
unblock
are.
it for people that are blocked on. I don't
Yeah,
want
so
my computer
for
outside
anyone
Europe
that
at the moment.
doesn't want Anthropic because of data processing or politics, whatever reason they've got towards Anthropic, we don't just want to say, well, it's take it or leave it. It's not
Yeah.
like a be all end all. But we want to give that variety. But obviously, just be aware that if you do limit it, you will limit your experiences. So you will not have all the benefits of researcher with Critic or Counsel and all the other stuff. So, but yeah, I think in terms of just like dissecting that and really reassuring customers, there's just a few things to consider because ultimately Anthropic is still US based. That hopefully should be changing fairly soon. The idea being is that other M365 services already follows that same processing mechanism. If you look up the data protection addendum, you'll notice that there's a segment that says other M365 services will process outside of country. So there seems to be just a bit more of an awareness of that. So like, when you talk about things like spelling and grammar, PowerPoint Designer, Excel Advanced Analytics, all that type of stuff, that processing already follows the same processing like what we do with Anthropic. So I think it's just a reassurance that, as you've seen, nothing bad has happened from having all these additional services. It still provides a really great, there hasn't been any snooping or interception of any data or anything like that at all because it's built around our secure service boundaries.
I think people have got lost as well because the first rev was it's not on Microsoft and we're pushing it to Azure. The second rev was it's on Microsoft, but now it's in the US. And hopefully probably not the third, there's probably more variances, but the third will be now we can process on Microsoft in Europe as well. And there's just been a lot going on to help people understand that.
No, Europe's an interesting topic because obviously you've got the EU data boundary. The UK's not part of that. So it's a very interesting conversation where even though there'll be an EU presence, doesn't mean the data will be ring-fenced there. So there's just needs to be that acceptance that data could go to different places, but it is all completely secure.
And processing versus at rest as well is an interesting one.
Yeah, I know. No, at rest is absolutely fine. But it's just the processing that causes a few concerns. And understandably, you've got your own policies where it says NHS may say, look, our patient data, we try to keep it within the EU. So it's just kind of, reassuring them that even though it may go off to other, just for processing, it's all, it's all volatile, it's all stateless.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, so it's just in memory, it's not committed to disk or whatever it may be. So it's,
But for the European partners, for example, they are okay with using Anthropics because they really get the benefits out of it. And this is why actually we just provide them some kind of flex routing. So if they would like to not just to use in the EU, and if they're okay with the US, they can actually use flex routing.
Yeah, to burst out when there's not enough compute. Alev, I think you wanted to show us some stuff. Do you want to do a bit of a demo?
Of course. Share my screen. This is Copilot. And most probably it will change its name as Scout. So the main difference is you'll be able to select models from different companies, including Microsoft AI.
Yeah, this is one of the build announcements. We got the public announcement of the first kind of MAI reasoning model. We've had specialist models of voice and transcribe and image before, but it's nice to see Microsoft in the game with the first party reasoning model.
Yes. Whenever I need computer use, I just use Copilot. And Claude Opus 4.8 is now available because, as we promised, we'll make the latest and the greatest model available from different companies. So one of the things that we worked with, actually, Chris, is, so we have our roles and definitions. So if I do it live, by the way, it will take some more time. But whenever you try to create your prompts and use the prompt coach, because if you tell it, like, I would like to do this with Copilot, please create me a prompt, it will create you a really good prompt. So what I would like to see is, I wanted to go through my emails my communications and tell me what is aligned with my role, what kind of improvements I can get, and what kind of gaps. And it just gives me really, really good, readable results. Because I would like it to create like 1,500 words, I can just ask it more. I can share with my manager. It's very easy. And I can just ask it to run this by the end of every Friday.
It's an interesting question, Tom, because I think there's a lot of people at Microsoft that always questions, am I doing the right thing here? Am I on the right tracks? Am I doing a good job? I keep asking myself that. God, it's giving me anxiety sometimes, but it's just great to have this to say, look, we have access to your roles, your expectations. It has access to work IQ as well. So I do like it. And then like that thing that Alev said about getting your manager involved, it's great to align that, because the support from the manager so I use this a little bit differently. Obviously I try and say, look, what do I need to do to get to the next level, to get that promotion, or how do I get into a manager role, or obviously that's there in the role, in our role library.
It's the work IQ that's really, like, as Ali said at the start of the pod, the secret sauce here, because
Yeah.
theoretically you could go to another AI product and say, here's my role description, what should I be doing? But the next step here is, what have I done that's appropriate? What haven't I done? Because it has your meetings, it has your context, it has your emails.
Yeah. I mean, you still use like another tool and you can feed it in like a meeting transcript, but it's very siloed. It's very singular. I think with Work IQ, it just knows everything that you've done, the people, it's got identity, data, emails, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of just asking it what I've done recently, it knows exactly what you've done recently. And obviously with the semantic, the indexing and everything around that as well, like the actual, like the broader landscape of finding that information, it's just, it just improves it tenfold.
It's just very nice. With Copilot Cowork, I love creating dashboards, like Chris said. So I can just create dashboard for a customer that I would like to learn more about.
Like pets at home.
Yes, it's nice. So I can just ask the customer name, the objectives. This is created by Prompt Coach anyways. So I can give the customer name, pets at home, they are kind, workplace file, and last 7 days, all categories. I can just ask it to search everything because it's been trained with billions of data, as well as it has access to Microsoft and my work data. Look at this dashboard. I can see if it's business, supplier chain. I can filter by geography.
Yeah, it's interesting, this idea that like one UIs or interfaces, like for my specific use case, the way I like to work, like I'm very bad with like big blocks of text, for example, like I can't really process them. So I'm always like, I want bullets, I want options, I want minimal, like ask me one question at a time, don't give me 10 questions, things like that. Like really a customized experience to how you want to work.
So this is one other thing. If you would like to be in control, you'll have the selections. I can either activate it or I can activate and make it run every day. So whenever it needs a permission from you, for example, dealing with your OneDrive files, dealing with your emails, it will ask you, would you like me to ask you, or would you like me to do it automatically? So this is where the human-led, agent-operated approach comes up.
And this is where I'm most excited about Cowork, because it's it running in the container in the cloud. Like I think like a lot of the hype is around the Claw bundle at the moment, but actually being able to fire it off on my mobile and it go away and do the work and come back to it, and actually I can work on multiple machines and it can all sync out because it's in the cloud, which I know is kind of a work in progress. Like I think that is really powerful. So I'm still curious as this two stories evolve, where we end up with like what can Claw do, or also models do that Cowork can't, or vice versa, because they're potentially quite similar.
Yes, you just need to try and see which one is exactly helping you a lot more with a specific job. So this is what I do with Copilot versus Cowork. So this was one of the examples trying to prepare for a podcast with Tom and Chris. So it gives like punchy, energetic, calm, credible, witty, and it selected Chris for Witty. I don't know why. And you can get ready for your meetings, your conversations, everything, and rehearsal dashboard. So I do this with my demo with our partners or customers. So I can see, Tom, you are the punchy one. I don't know why. I am the calm one.
And I'm the
Debatable.
witty one.
And yes, Chris is the witty one. I did
This is
read,
awesome.
I don't know if you heard, but there is a book called Open to Work. It was LinkedIn CEO and Chief Economical Opportunity Officer. They write this book, and it's all about how AI is going to change our work. I would definitely recommend to read it because it will change our world.
Amazing. Oh, thanks so much, both of you, for decoding some of that. I say a lot of this stuff is hot off the press as we record, so it's great to get opinions on it. And yeah, we'll see. You can now, if you're in Frontier, you can get Cowork now, provided you've got the Anthropic models enabled, and the Scout, which is the first inflation of Autopilot, which is essentially the branded variant of what the kind of Copilot or is going to be for customers, is available in Frontier as well. But you have to jump through a few hoops of some I think it's some additional security configuration, if I get that right, to make sure that you're all aligned as you should be. Awesome. Well, I was about to say I don't know what we cover next, but this thing's moved so fast. We'll probably be back again in at least a couple of months. Chris, hope your NHS thing goes well. That sounds like a really a good session.
Absolutely. No, we've got enough demos to cover for any any persona. So yeah, we've got some cool agents to show as well. That doesn't just stop. It's there's been loads of cool things. Been vibing quite a lot with Power Apps. Absolutely love that. Absolutely love vibing. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And also there are some things, some action coming to Outlook and some other applications that is just makes your life
well,
easier.
that's our next topic then. Sounds like good. Awesome. Well, Chris, Alev, thanks so much for joining us again. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions, put them in the comments below and we'll jump on again soon. Thanks a lot.
Sounds good. Cheers.
Bye.